All right, John, we gotta go, man. We gotta go.
Where we go? I just got here.
No,
where are we
there's
going?
too much. There's too much this week.
Where are we going?
There's too much. We gotta move. We gotta go. Hi, Rage Select Podcast. I'm Jeff.
I'm John.
Let's go.
Where are we going?
To the things, all the things they need to be. You gotta go. There's too many things this week. Last week there weren't enough things. This week there's too many things. So we're just jump right in.
Of course, that's the episode you have me on.
Yeah.
The guy who goes on tangents and shit and like causes a 1-hour podcast to be 2 hours long.
Everybody makes the podcast up. Nobody in the history of Rage Select has ever been like the podcast shortener, except for maybe Jason when he was getting sick of Rage Select in the old days, and it would be like, it's time for the 2-hour podcast. Jason, what do you think? All right, let's move on to the next thing. But no, why is this so long? Because before we even get into the video game news, you and I have 3 different things to talk about. And let's start with the first one is Netflix dropped that Castlevania last week.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this.
So I guess should we preface like not talking about the actual the show, but say it's a 4-episode thing.
420-minute
originally
episodes.
In 2007 they got Warren Ellis to write a script for a movie, an animated movie for Castlevania that went nowhere and languished in development hell for however long, and then Netflix came on and said, you know what, we like that script, turn that script into a season of a TV show and we'll give you a second season. So then they basically cut the movie into 4 episodes.
Well, that was gonna okay, so this is an adaptation of Castlevania 3.
Yes.
Specifically because we have Trevor Belmont, we've got Sylph Belnades or whatever, however you say. I've never been good with her last name. Alucard. I assume that at some point Grant is going to show up.
Probably.
I was kind of surprised to not see him in this thing. And we're not going to get too spoilery, but like it is on Netflix, and if you're interested, you've probably already watched it.
It's also 4 episodes. You can literally watch it in less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
So I actually felt that I thought it was interesting, but I felt like it wasted a lot of fucking time. And that's because it was so short, because it like unlike most Netflix series, it has no resolution. It's a total fucking cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Like it's 4 episodes, and those 4 episodes we're just getting going, right?
From what I understand, the movie idea was supposed to be a trilogy, and the first and second movie were supposed to have cliffhangers that led into the next movie, and then Netflix just said, that's stupid, make it a TV series.
So my issue that I had watching it was that I kind of liked it, but it seemed like I liked it when things happened, but I felt like there was a lot of time where things weren't happening. There's a lot of angsty fucking Trevor Belmont that I'm like, all right, but like come on already. Like for a story about the hordes of Dracula rampaging across the countryside, there's really only like 1 7-minute scene where that actually happens.
Yeah, and you see a baby getting eaten by a demon. That's great.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like it's interesting. I liked parts of it. I didn't feel like it was the strongest thing. I am really happy though to have just some fucking Castlevania back in my life.
Yeah,
right.
Castlevania that's also good.
Yeah,
and that's not to say that there's not. That's not to say that there's bad Castlevania stuff out there. I mean, there's some games that are not as good. Lords of Shadow 2 is fucking garbage.
What was that fighting game on the Wii that
God. Yeah, I don't remember what that was, but yeah, that one. But yeah, no, it caught me off guard too with just the fact that it's 4 episodes, because it's like, and especially like it literally feels like it's the lead up. Like, in all honesty, I kind of feel like it should have ended with, now go play the game.
Well,
because this is the prequel to the game.
If they would have taken those 4 episodes and chopped them down into a single 1-hour episode that was episode 1 of 4 1-hour episodes of the show, that would have been, because, I mean, it just, like, I'm sorry, this is a bit of a spoiler, but, like, it ends with the protagonist, like, all right, let's go do the thing. And it's like, well, what the fuck have we been doing the whole time here?
Yeah. Also, it's weird because they did change some elements of the story of Castlevania 3.
Yeah.
Like in the original, Trevor was sent to go kill Dracula by the Pope, if I remember correctly. And in this one, the church is just fucking evil supreme.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you're an especially religious person that gets upset about when the church is portrayed as evil fuckers, probably don't watch this series.
But also, it's Warren Ellis, so you know,
right? Obviously,
I mean, come on. Another little minor spoiler here, but there's an entire conversation about fucking goats.
Well, yes, that's true.
Because it's Warren Ellis.
Because it's Warren. Well, yeah, and Trevor Belmont is just like. He's such a Warren Ellis protagonist.
Yeah, he is.
That he kind of sticks out a little bit in this universe of like, you know, people that have all these convictions and like it's this old, you know, oh, Dracula and fucking the church and like, oh, the peasants and the villagers, and he's just kind of fucking Trevor Belmont. I don't know. I'm going to say I half liked it. There was a lot that I didn't like about it. I thought that they could have done a lot more. I didn't like the fact that they used a kind of generic hell beast. Considering Castlevania has so many iconic
I agree with you on that.
monsters that they just kind of used this one generic bat monster. It was everything.
Yeah.
I didn't like the stuff they did with Dracula at the beginning. I also had a little bit of a problem with it. Seemed like at times that you could really tell that like the voice actors seemed like they weren't in the same room with each other, where there was like
possible
a little bit of a disconnect between the voice acting and it's, I don't know, like somebody would say something and then the response from the other person would be like strangely out of touch to me.
Okay.
But
I mean, you said you didn't like the stuff that they did with Dracula at the beginning. I actually kind of liked that because it.
Oh, no, I did.
Oh,
like
okay. I'm sorry. I thought you said you didn't.
No, I did like
because because I actually like the fact that it kind of rounds out the character of Dracula. Because the first episode is just about Dracula.
Yep.
Like there's no Trevor Belmont until the second episode.
Yep.
And it's like
there's not a shitload of Trevor Belmont in the story.
Yeah, and you kind of, I mean, as soon as you know when you watch that first episode, you're kind of with Dracula at the end of it. You're kind of like, yeah, fuck all of humanity, you know, which is always good to do with the villain.
What is a man?
But a miserable pile of secrets.
You were just playing Symphony of the Night.
Yes, I was. What a terrible night to have a curse.
Yep. Oh man, I just like when I made that Raspberry Pi thing, I was like, oh, I'm gonna play one of the Game Boy Advance Castlevanias for like a minute, and then like I just beat it because I was like, God damn.
I got about halfway through Symphony of the Night, and I was like, I don't want to play this anymore. Like, I love this game, but I kind of don't want to play this anymore.
Yeah. Well, wait. Did you get to the part where you have to go to the upside down castle?
Well, so about halfway to there. So not actually like halfway through the game, but like I was just like I then remembered that you have to then go through the castle upside down. I was like, oh yeah. No, I just wanted something fun to play tonight. I didn't. You know
the secret of did you do the thing in Symphony of the Night where it's like it gives you a thing where like if you do like a Street Fighter fireball and you have a shield power and then there's like one shield that has all the shield powers, and so when you do that it like eats a chunk of your magic, but it just makes you invincible for like 3 minutes. And so towards the end of the game you can just walk through the back half of the game once you find the shield, because you just keep doing that. Enemies all blow up when they touch you. If you fight a boss, all that happens is you make yourself. It's like Screw Attack from Metroid.
Yeah.
You just jump into them and then they just die, and it's like, okay. But it's worth watching. And the thing about Netflix is that if you got Netflix, I mean, you might as well. Like, it's right fucking there.
Yeah,
right?
It's right there, and it's not for kids.
No, not for kids at all.
There's a lot of blood, guts, and cursing.
Yeah.
It's animated by local studio Powerhouse. Which,
the animation is top notch. It's very good.
If I had one complaint, is that there were moments where characters in the background would stop moving, and you could tell that there was zero animation being done on them, and it kind of looked a little weird. Like it's like someone paused a character in the background, and then once they're ready to have that person move again, they hit play.
Yeah,
like that kind of bothered me a little bit, but outside of that animation was fucking fantastic.
The only thing that really bothered me is they did a thing where both Dracula and Trevor have capes that hit the ground, and they have a lot of shots where you're watching them from the back, and their cape, like there's a motion that you need to animate of a piece of cloth like that dragging across the ground is an intensive thing, which is why most of the time, like Batman's cape comes down to like his, the bottom of his legs, because you don't want to animate it on the ground. And so you have these things where Trevor's walking away, and there's just a picture of the bottom of the cape just kind of dragging across the ground. Doesn't look right. Doesn't look like it has any weight to it. And I'm just like, I'm going to give you guys some shit for that, Powerhouse. I know people who work at Powerhouse because you didn't have to draw it like that. You could have just drawn the cape as long and not drag it on the ground. But other than that, it was fine.
Yeah,
it kind of reminded me of the Boondocks a little bit. Like, the action reminded me a little bit of whenever they do that.
I will say, like you, I had gripes. I do think the positives outweighed the gripes. Maybe there might be like a ton of gripes, but they're all so like my biggest gripe is where it ends. Like it's like what why are you why would you end it there?
Yeah,
that's. And now we're not going to get season 2 until next year, maybe at the earliest.
Yeah, it's like I almost feel like you should have waited to put it out until next year when you had season 1 and season 2 and make that season 1 because it's a real shitberg of a cliffhanger.
Yeah,
of just like.
Because that's the story's just getting there, like it's going, like that's like that 4th episode. It's like, this is all right. Let's do this. I mean, this is let's. Oh, we're gotta wait,
and then it's done. Yeah,
it's so. I mean, and the plus side is there are going to be 8 episodes in the second season. We already know that they've announced that they've renewed it. It's going to have 8 episodes. Excuse me. I'm curious on what they're going to do with it. Like, I'm wondering, like, are they gonna? Is it going to be 3 seasons of Castlevania 3? And then they go into what would chronologically be the next,
what is the next Castlevania after 3?
4.
Is it Super?
No, it's not. Super is a remake of
the first one.
The first one. There's Castlevania Curse of Dracula. Because that's
I wouldn't be able to tell at this point.
Curse of Dracula, if I'm remembering correctly, and I'm sure people will tell me I'm wrong. Curse of Dracula is the next one where Trevor finds out that he's cursed, and like he has to undo it.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's Simon's curse that I'm thinking of.
What a terrible night to have a curse.
Yeah.
Castlevania timeline on the Castlevania
But I do know
Wiki.
that Castlevania 3 takes place before Castlevania and Castlevania 2.
Okay.
Because if I'm not mistaken, Simon Belmont is the son of Trevor and Sif. Whatever.
So
the
it
fuck
goes Lament of Innocence, and then Castlevania 3, and then Curse of Darkness is the one after that. And then Castlevania The Adventure, Castlevania 2, and then original Castlevania, Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest, then Harmony of Dissonance and Symphony of the Night. Blah. Anyway. Yeah. All right, well, let's kick it into high gear here. You saw Spider-Man.
I did. Spider-Man Homecoming.
I was going to go see Spider-Man. I didn't have time. How was Spider-Man?
This is the reason I couldn't record with you on Thursday last week.
Oh, okay.
Because a friend took me to go see Spider-Man Homecoming. I really liked it.
Yeah.
To me, this is the best Spider-Man.
It's kind of a low bar.
Some people will say that, but there's some people on my feed that are like, I didn't really like this movie. I thought the Tobey Maguire movies were better. You know? And that's whatever, because they wanted something different.
Well, the first 2 Tobey Maguire movies aren't bad.
Yeah, no, they're not. And that's what they're saying. Like, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man 1, and the first 2 Spider-Man, Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies are the best movies, and then this one comes in third or something. Like, that's what most of them have said.
Okay.
Like, there are people on my... And when asking them why, I totally get it. Mm-hmm. Because they're fans of classic Stan Lee, Ditko Spider-Man, or even as later, not necessarily the Stan Lee written Ditko Spider-Man, but that the regular Marvel Spider-Man,
right?
Whereas this is more Ultimate Spider-Man, than anything. This is very much the Ultimate Comics, and those
younger Peter Parker.
I mean, he's in high school. Yeah. There's no Mary Jane. There's no Gwen Stacy. They don't even. Strangely enough, they don't even.
I thought Gwen Stacy. Didn't they cast Gwen Stacy?
No.
Who is in the? There's a love interest lady.
There is.
Okay. Okay. Never mind. No, that's Mary Jane, isn't it?
Mary Jane is not in the movie.
Okay. Never mind. I'm just not going to go into this. So.
Yeah. No. It's interesting because there's no mention of Uncle Ben at all. There's no mention of the phrase "with great power comes great responsibility" either.
Excellent.
They completely. And it's interesting because it's very clear anything that has been heavily harped on in any of the previous movies, we're just not going to acknowledge.
Excellent.
We're not saying it didn't happen.
Yeah.
We're just past that at this point. To the point of, I think, even like Kevin Feige, the guy who runs Marvel's movies, has actually stated that they will not use any of the villains, at least for the 3 movies that they're planning to do. They will not use any of the villains that have previously been seen on film.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's interesting. What does that leave? I mean, obviously Vulture, so no Doc Ock, no Green Goblin, no Electro, no Venom, no Sandman.
I would assume no Rhino either, but they could fudge that considering that wasn't really Rhino in Amazing Spider-Man.
So basically, you can't have a Sinister Six. Mysterio, that would make for an interesting movie, right? He's a. I wonder if they count. I mean, Hobgoblin, I guess, was also technically in Spider-Man 3. So I'm just trying to think of other Spider-Man villains.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few, but I mean, but so I mean, they're definitely going for an Ultimate Spider-Man vibe, and they're definitely trying to use a different cast. And that's not to say that those characters won't appear somewhere down the line. They're just not going. They're just not going for it like immediately.
Okay.
Fucking Michael Keaton is Vulture.
I heard nothing but good stuff.
Holy shit!
I heard nothing but good stuff.
He is actually menacing in that movie.
That's
there's
cool.
a scene between him and Peter Parker that is legit menacing. Like, it's like Peter Parker is going to die. Kind of like, that is my mental thought on that.
Yeah.
Kraven the Hunter would be a good one to do in the movie.
Kraven, yeah.
But because you pulled up a picture, so that's why I said it, in case people were wondering why I just randomly brought up Kraven the Hunter. But yeah, so it's good. Like, I like it. It doesn't have its problems. Yes, I feel like it kind of
Shocker.
Shocker's actually in this movie. Not a spoiler. They've talked about it. So it's. I feel like there are some times where it spins a little bit too much on certain scenes. Like, there's probably a few scenes that could have been trimmed or cut out entirely, but they work so well that. And I like the fact that it's, while yes, Tony Stark is in the movie, he's not like there the entire time. This is not Tony Stark and his sidekick Spider-Man.
Right.
This is Spider-Man with a little bit of Tony Stark sprinkled into it.
What would you let's do a couple of metrics. What would you give it out of a 5-star score?
Probably either a 4 or a 4.5, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Like, it's pretty good. Like,
and where would you rank it in Marvel movies?
So for me, as far as, like, I had to sit there and think about it, it's definitely in my top 5.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I like it more or less than. I'm not sure if it would be in the 3 or 4 spot. Like, it's not number 5. It's not number 1 or 2 either.
Every time I see somebody do that kind of ranking, it's like you're fucking comparing different genres of movies. Like,
I'm just trying to think of favorites. Like, obviously, my 2 favorite Marvel movies are Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Like, those are my 2 favorites because I just fucking love those movies. 3 is either going to be Spider-Man Homecoming or Captain America Winter Soldier.
Okay.
And then, the other one would be number 4, and then number 5 would probably be Ant-Man for me.
Okay.
But I don't know. Like, I'd like it, but and that's just for me personally.
Sure.
But I really like the movie because he's quippy.
Yeah.
He does make jokes.
Mm-hmm.
He also, like, he's also they also do this thing where they kind of show him trying to be a hero and also trying to have a normal life, and it's not necessarily working.
Very Spider-Man.
Very Spider-Man. I do like the fact that they never had him utter the line, "Oh, great, typical Parker luck." Like, because I don't think it's been long enough for him to have the typical Parker luck yet, as far as timeline goes. But I think if the thing that they knocked out of the park more than anything, though, is the Vulture. Like, they made him truly menacing. I feel like in some ways his character was probably written a little flat, but because of Michael Keaton and the way he acted the character,
yeah,
just like totally sold it.
Excellent.
Like, sold it in a way that I think that on script it probably wouldn't have sold it.
That's good, because I feel like a lot of the Marvel movies have problems with their villains.
And this is probably one of the better Marvel villains.
Okay.
Like, if not, like, this is... I think, like, this one and, like, there's one other I can't remember the name of off the top of my head, but, like, this is one of the... Because you totally... Like, it's not just him going, aha, I'm evil, and I'm doing evil things.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm going to kill the hero because I'm the villain. It's, oh, no. I'm doing this for a very specific reason.
Yeah.
And you're in my way, and you being in my way is going to cause a problem. Therefore, you got to die.
Yeah.
Like, that's... And it's totally an under... Like, you look at it and go... Oh, I see that. I could see that. I could see that thought process. I mean, I may not go to super villainy, but I can totally, from a
sure,
you know,
a relatable villain is always a great.
Yeah. And like I said, and Michael Keaton is like literally at one. There's one point where I just looked at him where I expected him to go, "I'm Batman," and then just but he didn't. So that's good. But.
So good.
Yeah,
people should go see it.
I really liked it.
Okay.
I think it's really good. They're probably going to be people who like, it was all right, but it's not as good as other things, and that's fine. Whatever. But
it's summertime. If it's a nice adventure summer movie, great. A nice reason to go to the theater.
I will like one of the biggest complaints I can say out of it is that they kind of going along the lines of they spend a little bit too much time with certain scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like they spend a little bit too much time dealing with the aftermath of Civil War and the other Marvel movies.
Okay.
Like there's like kind of near the beginning of the movie, it's just a lot of time of him basically reacting to that stuff.
Okay.
And then going back to his normal life.
Okay.
After that stuff. And it's just kind of like, okay, we get it. And on one hand it works because you're now feeling like he feels.
Right.
Because he had this crazy amazing thing that he did in Civil War, and then he comes back and everything's back to normal. Like,
right.
And he's not doing amazing things. He's just being Peter Parker and being Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So in that regard, it's like you kind of start to feel like he feels in the movie, but I kind of feel like it may have spent a little bit too much time on it. Having said that, I don't know how long the movie is, but it didn't feel long either. Okay. Like it felt like it was just briskly paced. Like it was never a dull moment in the movie. It was just kind of, it kept going and going and going. And I thought some of the things that they did to set up for the next movie I thought were really interesting. And I can't wait to see it.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, I was going to talk a little bit about Ghost in the Shell, but we're already going a little bit long, so we're going to do that. That's all right. We're going to do that before we do the questions after the break. So, but let's jump through this news because we got news, man.
All right.
So first up, the day after we recorded the podcast last week, there was a Splatoon 2 Nintendo Direct, and this, I feel like Nintendo Directs sometimes they're great and sometimes. I don't like the ones where they focus on one game the entire time because, boy, howdy, did they fucking run that game into the goddamn ground. Like, to the point where this Nintendo Direct was literally showing the options menu for Splatoon 2.
Yeah.
And, like, just detail and detail and detail, especially for a game that's going to be out in, as of this recording, like 6 days or something like that. So, but I think it looks really good. I really, 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 really enjoyed the first Splatoon.
Yeah.
And I think that having this on the Switch so that it's like I could just, sit on the couch and play Splatoon while I'm watching TV, like, I don't know, that works. That's something that's very appealing to me. And I know that some people will be like, well, you could do that with the Wii U if you put it on the gamepad, but it never really worked. There was always some kind of signal interference. Like I put my Wii U like right outside the window of my back porch where I go to smoke because I wanted to watch Netflix on my Wii U. I couldn't make it. The signal would get interrupted with but one window between. But I don't know. What do you think? You didn't. I mean, you don't have a Switch.
Yeah.
Did you play Splatoon 1?
I never played Splatoon.
Really? Okay. Does this? I mean, if I got a Switch, yeah, I totally want to play this.
Yeah. Like I wanted to play Splatoon on the Wii U. I just didn't.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always thought that it was. I always have to give Nintendo like serious, unmitigated props for doing things like Splatoon, where it's like, congratulations on taking the FPS genre and then finding a way to turn it so that it's not about killing people, right?
Yeah.
Is that
putting your Nintendo spin on it,
right? Like so that it's more about like inking the level than it is about just straight up like team deathmatch. It looks like there's a bunch of new like weapons and sub weapons and game modes.
And weapons have multiple abilities.
Yep. Like every weapon has a sub weapon, and then there's like an ultimate that you get after you built up a certain amount. There's some new weapon types like buckets. Like now we're just tossing buckets of paint on stuff. There's the single player mode. There's the horde mode, which is the salmon spawn we've already seen before. It looks like there's a shitload of like gear and
apparently gear gives you different abilities and things like that.
I'm pretty sure it did in the last game too.
I don't know. I didn't play the last game. So,
but it's been a long time. It looks fun, and it looks like they've done their due diligence in adding to the original Splatoon formula in a way that's going to make it feel iterative, but not take away the things that made Splatoon 1.
Yeah. And they did establish that there's going to be loads of updates afterwards, so
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. Like in all honesty, I wouldn't be surprised unless like they came up with some like new game mode or something like that just totally required it. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get a Splatoon 3 until the next console.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I could see that if they just put out DLC for Splatoon 2.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. I just really like this idea that Nintendo has about like this is the way that we're going to do like our online. Like we're not going to try to compete in like the Call of Duty or Battlefield spaces.
Yeah.
We're going to make a kind of a unique and different spin on it, especially in an era where like since fucking Modern Warfare came out, still we live in the shadow of Modern Warfare.
Yeah.
Like a decade later of just like straight up military shooter.
I mean, they finally released Modern Warfare Remastered for
on disc
on PS4 only.
Yeah. On PS4 only?
Yeah. Oh. I think the Xbox one comes out later.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, yeah, we knew that was going to happen. Like, there wasn't it was never a question about whether or not that was actually going to happen. But anyway, I don't know. When Splatoon 2 comes out, I mean, you're definitely going to see it over on Rage Slate. Maybe we'll do a live thing. I know that people miss the live stuff, but maybe we'll do something at some point.
Maybe.
So let's play my favorite game of the Rage Select podcast, John. Called Good Nintendo, Bad Nintendo.
Oh, what did Nintendo do now?
They have ceased production of the new 3DS in Japan.
The smaller one, I thought it was.
Okay, yes. Never mind. Okay, I got my wires crossed. That's right, because I thought that what they were talking about was the one that I have, but that's technically a new 3DS XL.
Yeah, because the new 3DS XL was all that was released here in the States.
Okay.
Outside of the Galaxy, which is a regular 3DS XL.
Well, then never 3DS. You mind. And
yeah, but that's still interesting is that they've stopped production on one version of the 3DS.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Anyway, well, let's just jump forward from there and talk about, I was talking about how Nintendo isn't trying to chase that first-person shooter online market.
Yeah.
Well, Destiny 2 is
good
definitely
segue.
Trying to do that.
Good segue.
I used up all my good segues last week. There's not a lot of there wasn't a hell of a lot to this, but Destiny 2 is getting their open betas coming next week, and you get like early access if you pre-order the game. So guys, don't take my pre-ordering the game as like tacit admission that I think that pre-ordering is good, because I just do it because I got to have something to put on Rage Select. Everything I'm seeing from
I have
Destiny
no problem
2,
with pre-orders. I just want to establish that.
I have everything I'm seeing from Destiny 2 looks promising.
Yeah,
like it looks good. I think the real question that I have though is if I could at least make a brief. If I could briefly talk to the Rage Select listeners at home. So you remember 2 years ago when Destiny was getting ready to come out?
Yeah.
And they had the closed beta where you got to play in that one area.
Yeah.
And then they had the open beta where you got to play in that one area. And then the game came out, and that was the first area in the game. And by the time the game came out, I was so fucking sick of Russia, of that space yard in Russia, that I literally had to like force myself to play through that area.
That actually made me not want to play the game.
Yeah, because you'd already played it so many times. So I guess what I'm saying to you, the listener at home, is like if you're super excited about Destiny 2, it's not maybe just wait for Destiny 2 to come out and don't play in the beta.
I mean, it comes out in a few months.
Yeah, because you don't want to burn yourself out. I don't know. This is supposed to have like the first area and then some co-op and then some of the adversarial multiplayer. I don't know, but just be careful, gentle listener, because you don't want to tire yourself out on your new favorite game before it even comes out. So, yeah, I've gone back to Destiny a few times. When I try to make a new character, the first thing you've got to do is go to that area, and it's just like,
it's the same thing that happened like in MMOs and things like that. Like you just play that first opening area so many times that it's just like, fuck, I wish I could skip this.
Here we go again. Yeah. I don't know. Let's see. Next up, here's a little PSA for everybody. So Oculus has dropped the price for their Rift bundle to sub PSVR prices for the summertime.
Time.
Yeah. So if you are interested, if you have a PC that can run VR and you're interested in it, the Oculus and with the 2 touch controllers is now $400.
Yeah, $399.
Which that's a
hell of a good deal.
I got to say, every fucking time that I talk about like Microsoft and how I want them to get their shit together and start putting out like good stuff to really like stick it to Sony, it's this is the reason, is that Oculus is like number 3 right now in the VR game, and so they did what you have to do, which is fucking drop the price and see if you can make it up on volume.
Yeah.
And $400 is not exactly no money, but it's also not a redonkulous amount of money that you couldn't put together in a summer and
agreed. Like
this.
If it wasn't for the fact that I'm in the process of moving and putting deposits down and first month's rent and all sorts of other things, I would be tempted to do this.
I'm tempted to do it. It's just that I know that my PC is a little bit underpowered for VR, and I don't want to buy a new PC and a
if I'm not mistaken, my PC is like right at the bottom. Like we're a little bit above the bottom. Like it's not the lowest specs, but it's a little bit. So it's like right there.
Yeah,
that I could probably play games and play okay.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm like, nope. I need that movie to move. Money to move.
It's really tempting for me to even get one and then put it aside until I have some cash, because I've needed a new PC for a little while, and it's really tempting to even get it and then set it to one side until I get the money together to be able to get a new PC. But yeah, if you're interested in VR, and I know like there's a contingency of people on Rage Select who are just like, God, fuck it, I'm so tired of listening to Jeff blather on about VR, and now I got to watch VR videos as well. If you got if $400 is not a huge investment for you, which it isn't for some people, this is a hell of a deal. And there's some games out there that I feel like would work really well on the Oculus, and the Oculus also does the same thing that the PSVR does, where you don't have to have like room scale, right? You don't have to have like 1,000,000 degrees of movement, because it's got the camera and then the 2 controllers. And the last time that I used an Oculus, the production model Oculus, it had the advantage of being the lightest headset that I've ever put on. So what still smashes up against your face like the Vive does, but it's very, very light and very easy to kind of get into. So if you're interested, bada bing, bada boom. Speaking of like summertime, limited time things, we got some esports to talk about. The Invitational has opened up their website for this summer's International Dota 2 tournament. And you know how this works, right? They sell the compendiums with it, and that's how they put together the prize pot. This year's prize pot's the largest one ever. Shock, as it always is every year. $20 million. God
damn.
Like,
I mean, I know that's split between multiple people.
5 people, yeah.
Yeah, but god damn.
Yeah. No, seriously. I'm like, you guys really need to start putting this shit on TV. Like, because that's not chump change. So, teams are being added into the compendium, and everything is getting put together. This will be August 7th through the 12th. In Seattle's Key Arena. I actually watched some of the Invitational last year, and it's really hard for me to follow what the fuck is going on, because they they talk about like the individual heroes and like what they're doing and stuff, and I don't really understand it, but I know enough of how MOBAs work to get the gist.
Yeah. I mean, I watched that documentary that Valve did about
the International.
Yeah, about the International, which was really good, and really I was like, oh man, I should totally want to watch this because this is really like. This is a really good story that's being told in this documentary thing. And then I try watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know.
It's interesting. I don't know if you're at all like. It's kind of one of those things where I like watching Evo, right?
Yeah.
But I don't really know how to play fighting games that well. But I like watching Evo because it's like watching the best people in the world at a game that you really like. That you're just like, oh, I'm a fetus when it comes to this game.
Yeah.
So. But let's say that MOBAs aren't your shtick. Let's say that you like other games like MMOs, but you want to make money like these crazy esports kids do. What is a man to do, John, or a woman, or whoever? What are you to do in this particular situation?
I don't know.
Well, Blizzard knows.
Oh, well, of course they do.
Apparently, they're starting a new thing called the Mythic Dungeon Invitational, which is like a WoW raid competition.
Oh, okay. Well,
where you put together a team and you qualify by going through dungeons quickly, and then there's going to have what is it going to be? There's going to be a $100,000 prize pool. And so you have to, from July 25th to August 8th, teams have to go through a gauntlet of mythic keystone dungeons and earn the best scores on the proving grounds. And then the people who do the best will be invited to this thing. I find this to be really interesting because WoW was not a thing I ever thought that I would see an esport come out of. But apparently Blizzard is just like, if we can offer you chump change to play it and put it on a channel, put it on Twitch, and people will watch it.
They're probably like, all of our other games have esports, so fuck it.
Yeah. Well, no, wait.
Build it into the game.
Diablo doesn't yet, as near as I can tell, right? Like,
okay,
you got to play Diablo with a level 1 character on extreme difficulty.
Wasn't there like a PvP thing in Diablo 3 for a while?
Diablo 2, maybe? I don't think so. I don't know. I don't remember there ever being anything in Diablo 3. I mean, there's co-op, but I don't ever remember there being PvP.
I could have vaguely remember there being some type of PvP thing in that. I could be wrong. It's been so long since I played.
I could also be wrong. I've never seen it, but it's possible that the game was like, "Hey, would you like to learn about PvP?" And I'm just like, "Eat a dick! I'm killing skeletons over here." But yeah, I don't know. This is interesting. I don't know. Do you think that we're heading towards a future where like we start seeing more and more esoteric games get like the esports treatment? I feel like we're already kind of moving in that direction. But like, do you think that like there'll be a Battlefront 2 international competition or something like that? Or
I mean, it's possible.
I mean, Splatoon already kind of has that a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like any game that does like yearly iterations, probably not so much. But like games, games that come out maybe once every 2, 3, 4 years, maybe you'll start seeing those.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there are Call of Duty tournaments and stuff like that because, I mean, that's been...
Sure.
But it's just like... so I don't know if we'll see, like, Battlefront, but, if we ever get to a point where they have, like, a Cooking Mama Invitational, I'm going to be fucking, like... I'm going to be like, done! I'm out! I'm no longer playing video games! I'm done!
Like, that was it. That was the one. The Cooking Mama Invitational. That was where I drew the line. You guys stepped over the line. I'm done. You can have all my games. I'm done. Well, when you talk about Blizzard and how they monetize literally everything, and they're going to make everything into an esport eventually. I'll be happy with that as long as we get characters like Doomfist, who finally showed up on the PTR, and it's not Terry Crews, but
no, it's not. But understandable why.
Yeah. Doomfist has finally showed up. We got some details on that. I think it was like the day after we recorded the podcast last week. It was like Doomfist. I think this is the first time we've seen a fully animated cinematic.
It is
for an Overwatch character, and it's a good one.
Yeah,
too.
it's really good.
So Doomfist He's part of what's the organization that Sombra and Reaper.
Well, Reaper is the leader of it. I'm trying to remember what it is because it's another. It's oh god damn it, Talon.
Talon. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So Talon has 5 leaders.
Mm-hmm.
5 fingers, essentially. Reaper's one of the leaders. I think Widowmaker is one of the leaders, and then I don't think we know who the other 3 are until Doomfist, which Doomfist is one of the leaders.
Right.
So there's 2 other Talon leaders that are not known as of yet.
Okay. So we got to see this. We're just watching right now. This is a really nice little animated.
Yeah, it's
cinematic.
really well animated.
But Doomfist is he's an offense character like Genji or Tracer. He's got a 4-shot shotgun on one of his other on his non-Doomfist hand on the regular fist.
Like each knuckle has a shotgun on it.
Yeah. And then he has, the Doomfist punches.
Which has a rocket punch.
It has a rocket punch. Isn't there like a draw people in thing?
I think so,
or like some kind of ground.
Yeah.
I don't know. You can go look at the very specifics. I think it looks really fun. When it comes to the PS4, I might have to reinstall Overwatch, even though that's a bad thing for me to have access to Overwatch.
I'm looking forward to it. Today, apparently they put up a lot of his on the PTR. They put up his skins and sprays.
Oh yeah,
for people to look at.
Mm-hmm.
He has some cool skins. They're not anything like there's one where he's like a robot kind of thing, and then there's one where he has like tribal paint on him. Which is kind of cool looking, but his skins, or not skins, but his sprays are actually kind of cool. Like there's one that's called the Greatest, and it's literally a homage to that Muhammad Ali Greatest, pose where he's like got his like arm out and like the opponent is on the ground. Like it's Doomfist in that same pose and like an Omnic on the ground destroyed.
Oh, that's cool.
They've got another one that actually goes. So Zarya has a spray where she's like doing like an arm wrestle thing on a table, and Reinhardt has a response spray to that, and so does now also Doomfist, where you can actually spray it over hers and it looks like they're arm wrestling.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, Overwatch, how I doth love thee.
Also, there's another one that's it's a Street Fighter combo. It's like down, back, forward, and then the Doomfist.
Oh, okay. All right, that's cool. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I have to. You know what? I need to. It's probably been like 4 or 5 months since I've played Overwatch. I know that they've got there's like a new map in there.
Yeah.
There's a few new maps in there. Some of them are just those little ones, but I have to really give it to Blizzard. I went back and played some Diablo 3 with the Necromancer update. Overwatch. I can kind of just put any Blizzard game in front of me and play it for a while.
Yeah.
Like there's not one that I have any like objection to or anything. Yeah. So, but yeah. All right. Well, let's see what we're looking at here. All right, we got a little bit of time left in this first part. I just closed the story that I was going to read next, but Valve is revamping their recommendation system for like recommending games to you specifically, and they're looking at a few different things about like games that you've played in your game library, games that other people have recommended to you, trying to rework that into a system to try to give you a better to have recommendations that are better suited to your own specific taste, as opposed to just like, hey, check out this fucking anime bang novel, like you like those, right?
You've bought one.
Yeah. But I mostly wanted to use this as an opportunity to say that I do like to give props as well as shit when a company does the thing. Steam's reworking of like what shows up on the new releases, on the default popular new releases, has done wonders for my Steam thing, because like a lot of times, even though there are a shitload of games that are into the all games, it's really only showing me ones that are getting a fair amount of positive buzz. So in that way, I would just like to say that it looks like Valve has actually done good work at de-shitifying the front page of Steam from just like tons and tons of games every single day and getting, 8 to a dozen games a week that I can parse through that I can actually see, as opposed to just going crazy. All right, let's talk a few trailers here. This summer, a fan favorite, or I don't know if it's a fan favorite, it's one of my favorites. PlayStation's going to be putting out PS4 and Vita Samurai Showdown 5 special, which is just a re-release of Samurai Showdown, but with some background stuff. This trailer is literally just the executions in the game where you cut people in half and then the blood splatters on the screen. It's pretty much the entire trailer. Did you play You play Samurai Showdown, don't you?
If it had the name SNK attached to it, then yes, I played it.
Okay.
Was I good at it? Fuck no, but I played it.
Yeah.
I played the shit out of it.
I've never actually gotten around to playing Samurai Showdown at home. I feel like I only ever played it in the arcades.
Okay.
And I feel like if I could just sit down with it on a home console, I could maybe get slightly better at it than I used to be in the arcades. But in addition to that, so that's it's coming this summer. And so is Matt Frank's new favorite game.
Also, my new favorite game.
Dino Frontier, which we heard about at E3.
Yeah.
But we got a little gameplay trailer. This is for the PSVR. And basically, it's a bunch of cowboys riding dinosaurs around, and it's going to be it's
like a God game, kind of like
Black and White.
Black and White, and you're basically creating a settlement.
Yep.
And instead of horses and stuff, it's dinosaurs.
Yep. And then you got little dinosaur posses running into town. Dinosaur raiders. Dinosaurs in cages. I don't know. It looks real fun. I don't know how the actual gameplay is going to be, but it's one of those games where you just, it's like you're giant, you're picking stuff up and putting it down in the world. And, there's something inherently satisfying about that. It looks goofy as all sin, but that lady was just playing patty cake with a tiny dinosaur.
Yeah. It looks fun. I am all for this kind of thing. So
yeah. Also,
there's a little stinger at the end of it where it's a dinosaur wearing a VR headset.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hilarious.
Yep.
Because the Raider guy walks in on screen and is like, it's like a VR headset for your face. It's like, what? What does that even mean?
Yeah.
And it's but it's just a T-Rex with the PSVR and 2 Move controllers.
Yeah. I gotta say, as somebody who recently purchased a PlayStation VR, I'm really appreciating the fact that there seems to be new stuff coming out every week. Super Hot is coming out next week.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Really looking forward to playing this. There's just there's other stuff on the horizon. Strangely, did you play the SpiderMan Homecoming
I downloaded
thing?
it, but I haven't had a chance to play it.
It's awful.
Oh, I'm sure it is, but it's free.
Yeah, it's 4 minutes long and it sucks. So that. But anyway.
Yeah, but at least it's not like the Passengers VR experience thing, which was $10 and it's fucking awful as well.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, at least
for the movie
bad.
Passengers.
Also, that movie
fuck cares
sucks. I
didn't buy it, but every place that I looked at, it was I don't. If this was a free thing, it would be yeah, sure, download. It's free. It's a little free experience thing.
Right.
But it's but it's $10, so fuck this game.
Yeah. Yeah. And then let's see. Our last trailer this week is for something that I think that a lot of folks who listen to Rage Select are probably really excited about. So this is War. What is it? War for Mordor?
Yeah, War for Mordor's
the Nemesis Forge. And I gotta say, this is fucking brilliant. I don't know who it is that's making this game, but boy, howdy, are they just doing everything right. So this is basically a thing that you can download into Shadow of Mordor that will take your most trusted lieutenant and your greatest nemesis and then port them into War for Mordor when it comes out.
So you can totally be killed by Snackbox 20 over and over.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think that... I don't know. I feel like I spent a lot of time like riding this game's nuts, so to speak. But like, that's brilliant. That's great. Like the relationships that you had between like some of your worst, you know, like I even forgot before we live streamed Shadow of Mordor how much that Nemesis system where you're just like, I developed complicated hatreds for just some a-hole orc in Shadow of Mordor, and now it's like, oh yeah, you can also bring them over to your new game.
Yeah.
And by God, that's fucking brilliant, man.
Yeah, no, I agree. I love it.
That's wonderful.
I love it.
So I'm gonna get it, and hopefully, if all goes well, when War for Mordor comes out, we'll see a familiar face make a familiar resurgence. So, but yeah, it looks great. All right, so now we have we've come to the back half of this where we're basically going to talk about a few tangentially video game related things.
Yeah.
And then wrap it up. First up this week, Akiva Goldsman is apparently working on a Rainbow Six movie with Ryan Reynolds, maybe.
Sure. Why not?
So, yeah, producer, writer, director Akiva Goldsman, who's worked on, like, Transformers, apparently.
Okay.
Is working on Rainbow Six. And they're trying to get Ryan Reynolds to star in it. What I find really interesting about it is that apparently this is going to be based on the first Rainbow Six book, the original one, the original Tom Clancy book, and that Ryan Reynolds will probably be John Clark, who was fucking Willem Dafoe because that character was in, if I'm not mistaken, Clear and Present Danger.
Okay.
And it was Willem Dafoe in Clear and Present Danger. And then the guy that played Ding Chavez was, God, I never remember that guy's name. He was in, like, Training Day, and he was in, again, a bunch of other movies. Anyway, I really hope that it's a very direct... I've always wanted to see somebody make Rainbow Six because the enemy in Rainbow Six, the book, is hippies. Like, it's a bunch of hippies who create a biolab to create a virus to destroy humanity because they believe that we're polluting the earth to death, and the Rainbow team has to go in and fucking murder them all by shooting them in the face. I would like to see Ryan Reynolds do that. And with a lot of like crazy Transformers. I want Ryan Reynolds, I want Deadpool and Bumblebee to blow up a bunch of hippies. Is that so wrong?
No.
Is that so? Am I a monster for wanting that? Because if that's wrong, then I don't want to be right. All right? All right. You seem like you have like less than zero interest in like Rainbow Six or...
I'm not a Tom Clancy guy.
Yeah.
I don't really care about the movies. I don't care about the books. I don't care about the video games. I'm just not really a Tom Clancy guy.
Okay. All right. How about Fallout? Are you a Fallout guy?
I do enjoy the Fallout. I'm not as huge a fan as I once was, but I do enjoy it.
Okay. Well, do you remember that there was a live-action Fallout 4 trailer that was... it was just a guy, and he was kind of like wandering around and like shooting raiders and stuff, and it was all set to the theme The Wanderer. Was
it live action?
Oh, is this... Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I just thought it was...
This in-game engine? I think there's some CGI. Or maybe it's like live-action environments, but CGI people? I don't know. I can't tell. It's hard to tell in this one. But do you remember this trailer?
Yeah, I do remember the trailer with the Wanderer over it, yeah.
Okay, so apparently, this is actually really interesting. The original Dion DiMucci, who was the person who sang The Wanderer...
probably wrote it.
...is suing ZeniMax.
Because
apparently the agreement that they had was that ZeniMax was free to use the song, but he had like executive producer kind of credit for his song, so that like ZeniMax was supposed to show him a trailer that he would then approve before it was put out into the world.
Yes.
And apparently they did not, and that he did not like the fact that this trailer is ultra violent with this guy wandering. That the implication with the song is that he's wandering around shooting people, whereas apparently Mr. DiMucci's original intent for the song is that it's about being young and wandering around and not knowing where you're going to go in life, right?
Yeah.
So he is now suing.
Well, apparently
ZeniMax.
he had provided them saying these images can't be in the thing, and I get final say, I get final approval, and they went okay, cool, and then just ignored it.
Yeah. So I find that interesting, though. It's kind of strange and not a thing that I think about very often about taking a song out of context or recontextualizing it for a trailer. I feel like we see that all the time.
Yeah, we do.
But this is the first time I think I've ever seen original artists be like, yo, bitch, that's not what that song's about. Fucking take that down and pay me. Or
well, I've seen stuff like that before, but not necessarily for that. There are artists who I don't want my music to be used to sell a product of any kind.
Yeah.
And then a company tries to use that song in an ad, and then they have to sue them. Hey, we didn't.
What's that? There was the Beastie Boys.
Yeah, it was the thing with the Beastie Boys and the girls, the song "Girls," and it was he made and it was after oh God,
MCA.
Yeah, MCA died or whatever. But it was a big thing, and it was no, we're not saying that he wouldn't have been okay with your product. We don't approve of the use of the song because we don't
want our songs being used to sell anything.
Yeah, to sell anything.
Yeah.
Also, he actually doesn't like the song because of what it's actually about.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those things that it was it was just kind of a whole bad thing. It's we're not saying the reason you used the song wasn't, pure intentions.
Sure.
We're just saying you didn't have the rights.
Yeah. So now we got some bad news for everybody.
Oh, bad news?
Well, just some delays and one thing that I found really interesting, and that is that the Tomorrow Children is being shut down.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't remember, this was a weird town building multiplayer post-apocalyptic Soviet Russia children game. Joe and I played it. I think we played one part of it for the dojo, and it was kind of I don't even know what the fuck is going on in this. I only
know this because I thought it had to do something. When I first heard the title, I thought it had something to do with the Tomorrow People, which was a old kids, a young teenager show that then they recently tried to remake it and it didn't work. And it's but it turned out it had nothing to do with that. So
yeah, so I don't know. Pour one out for that. If anybody in Rage Select played that game, I'd really be interested in knowing, was it fun? Because it seemed like a real pain in the ass.
Well, if they're shutting it down, there's probably a reason.
Yep. Well, these next two are not being shut down, but they are being delayed. First up, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, the full launch of taking it from early access to a full retail product was supposed to happen let's see. Okay, so PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds came out in March. At the end of March, it was supposed to be a full release within 6 months. Now they're saying Q4 of 2017. PlayerUnknown, I forget the guy, Brendan Green basically said, I don't want to artificially limit this launch and then launch something that's not done.
Yeah.
So we're pushing it back a little bit. I am interested though to find out that that he does have a firm release date for PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, because I feel a lot of times isn't DayZ still in early access?
I think so. Yeah.
I feel like a lot of developers are more than happy to let their game just lounge in early access forever.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see that this is actually getting a full release. Also getting a full release, but not this year, is Ni no Kuni 2, which is being delayed out of 2017 into 2018.
That was supposed to come out in August or November.
Let's see. It was supposed to be out in November.
Okay.
And now it's going to be January of 2018. So not a big delay, but still a delay. So that. And last but not least, this is kind of an interesting thing that I ran across while I was looking stuff up for the show this week. And apparently, there's this new website that's launching pretty soon called Jump. That's a subscription-based indie game platform. So for $10 a month, they're going to give you a list of curated indie games that are good that you can then play, with more being added every month, essentially. Now, at first I kind of looked at this and I thought, that's a little strange. We've already got so many different ways to buy video games that, like, why would I need another one? But then I thought back to all the bitching and moaning and complaining that I've done over the years about Steam and how hard it is to find anything on Steam. So if there was a service out there that would just give you, like, the best indie games that came out, that played, if somebody was back there, like, evaluating them and finding the really good ones and keeping the really shitty ones out of your face, that's a service that I would be willing to pay $10 a month for. Because, when indie games are really good, they're really good. But so often it's hard to tell, like, what's good from what's not on Steam, that paying somebody to professionally curate your indie game experience might be something that I'd be willing to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
Does this hold any interest for you?
I mean, it does, but my big thing is, like, I'm kind of getting to my limit of various subscription services. And
Sure.
I'm not just talking about video game subscription services. I'm talking about subscription, because I've got a Comixology Unlimited to get comic books every month. I've got, Crunchyroll. I've got, Netflix. I got Hulu. I've got, I'm sure I've got, like, one other subscription service that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head, to get access to, that I'm just like, do I need another subscription thing? And I mean, I've been looking at the Xbox subscription service thing for Xbox One, which right now I feel like it's still not there for me because I own a lot of those games already.
The gold,
their, like, subscription thing that they're doing.
Yeah. Yep.
And then, like, then while I don't have it, there's PlayStation View View, but PlayStation Now.
Yep.
And then, there's EA's thing, and there's, it's just like, I don't know if I want another goddamn subscription thing.
I was actually really happy because Square Enix sent me an email saying, hey, we're about to charge your credit card for your next month of Final Fantasy 14 online. And I was like, oh, thank you. Canceled. I could feel that. Yeah. Or, hey, if you don't want to spend $10 every month, you can always just watch Rage Select, where we get to play pretty much every fucking game that comes out.
And also, it's also like what games are available, how quick, how long do they stay part of the service,
how fast is the download,
If I only have access to, like, for $10 a month, if I only have access to, like, 5 games, and the cost of those 5 games is like $10 to just buy them and own them forever.
Sure.
Then fuck it, I'll go buy them. But I'm assuming it's going to be more than just like 5 games.
I hope so. I don't know. I emailed them and they said that they'd let me take a look at it before it comes out, which it's currently in beta. You can sign up for the closed beta, and it's not a publicly available service, but you could check it out. I don't know. If we get more access to it, I'll talk more about it, but yeah, it's playonjump.com, no www. So, I don't know. And with that, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to answer some questions, so stick around, and we'll see you in just a second. You ready for them questions, John?
Didn't you have something you want to talk about before we got to questions, though?
No, I do have something I would like to talk about before we get to questions.
Something that you decided not to talk about when we talked about the other 2 things we talked about?
Yep. There's a lot of talking about a lot of things.
Wanted to make your thing special?
Yep. No. I didn't
Single it out.
I didn't want people to have to sit through.
Get the stuff that I want to talk about out of the way.
Well, if you didn't talk about Spider-Man for fucking 45 minutes, no, Spider-Man's more important than what I have to talk about, which is that I got a chance to watch the Ghost in the Shell movie last week, and I talked about it a little bit. I briefly mentioned it during Final Fantasy 12, but there was so much going on there with you know what it's like when you get Matt and Mayhem's Muse in the same room. It's fucking I just hold on for dear life and just try to play a video game. But I would like to talk about it a little bit more in depth. You haven't watched it, have you?
I have not. I want to watch it just because I like Ghost in the Shell. I don't think it's going to be super. I don't expect it to be like super offensive, but
it's real.
I don't expect it to be good either.
It's real blah. It's real blah, but there's something strange about it, and this is the thing that's strange. And I feel like you see this a lot of times in comic book movies. So here's the thing. This is going to be, if you want to go into Ghost in the Shell 100% blind, maybe jump forward a few minutes. But like, what I'm gonna talk about is I'm gonna talk about Ghost in the Shell in the movie in the context of people who have probably already seen the anime. Like, if you haven't seen the anime, a lot of this is probably gonna go over your head. But what I found really strange about it was that they felt the need to take, and I feel like anybody who's actually watched the trailers knows this, but they took two of the iconic sequences from Ghost in the Shell, the anime, and put them into this movie, but the movie is not about the what's the name of the hacker?
Laughing Man?
No. In the movie, the first movie,
God,
Puppet Master, right? Master, yeah. So like they have the sequence with the sequence in the anime where with the garbage truck and the guys shooting at Motoko, and there's kind of a chase through the marketplace, and she's got the invisible suit. Like, they have that in there. And then they also kind of have the tank part from the very end of the movie. And I feel like this is weird because it's not really much of a spoiler because the moment that you see a garbage truck in the Ghost in the Shell movie, you're probably going to have an inkling of what's going to happen, because I feel like Ghost in the Shell is very, very well known because it was kind of like one of those early animes that crossed over, that people that didn't even really watch anime watched it. And
I remember Ghost in the Shell 2 having an actual theatrical release.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, I watched Ghost in the Shell 1 at Dobie Mall downtown, where they used to show stuff back in the 90s when it came out, when it was like Akira and Ghost in the Shell were like a lot of people, I feel like, their introduction to anime. Yeah. So I find it, but it's very strange. It's kind of jarring because it's like, I know how those sequences are going to turn out. So it kind of deflates it a little bit, which is kind of maybe the opposite of the intent of like, hey, look, here's the live action version of a really iconic scene that you've seen before. But it's like, yeah, but I know how this scene ends. Like, I know what's going to happen here, and they don't really deviate that much from what's already happened. The whole plot is much more of the best way that I can probably explain this, and I think that on Final Fantasy 12, Jennifer mentioned this. If you watched Aeon Flux, like, you go from Aeon Flux the cartoon to Aeon Flux the movie, and like Aeon Flux the cartoon was about things happening in the Aeon Flux universe, whereas Aeon Flux the movie was like, we really need to explain who Aeon Flux is, where she came from, and that's the main thrust of the movie.
Yeah.
That's what's happening in Ghost of the Shell, is that in the Ghost in the Shell animated and in the manga, like, Motoko Kusanagi's background is, I mean, there was the Individual 11 arc that talked about that in Standalone Complex, but for the most part, it's kind of not important. Not as important as Section 9 doing things in this future, exploring the idea of human futurism and cybernetics, and like, what does it mean to be a person, like if you have a fully android body but you still got a human brain, and like when you're interacting with computers and your brain can be hacked, and those are kind of interesting things. This movie is really, really, really about like, who is the Major and where did she come from, and that's like the main thrust of the movie. And I feel like it suffers a little bit from that because,
which, if I vaguely remember, they said that this movie wasn't going to be that.
Yeah,
which I thought was hilarious. But
yeah. The other thing that I find really interesting is that, and I said this before, I feel like there's a spectrum about the stoicism of the Major, right? Where like in the manga, Kusanagi is downright goofy from time to time. Like, there's some manga elements of, like, there's one part where it's like she's just fucking hanging out with a bunch of ladies, like drinking and like having a good time, and then like she gets called into work and she's like, fuck, I hate work. And then like you go to the anime and she's a much more serious character. And then you go to this movie and like Scarlett Johansson is playing this as like the deadest, the most like emotionally dead character I've ever seen. And it doesn't work very well because in the anime, I felt like she
still had some personality.
She was thoughtful. She was like a quiet but thoughtful character, but that she also had, personality. Like there's that whole part that I remember of her talking with Togasa about why they need somebody who's fully human on their team, about how specialization breeds weakness, and if they were all cyborgs, then they wouldn't see things, and they need somebody. You know, there's like stuff in there that's kind of interesting philosophy, whereas here, she's very much a kind of passive actor that it just seems like things are happening to. And so at the end of the day, it ends up being a very different, like the reason I like Ghost in the Shell, the manga, the anime, the series, is because it's kind of like Aeon Flux or like maybe like Star Trek or something, where you're like exploring like what does a potential future look like, and what are things that can happen in a future where you have everybody's brain connected to computers and whatever. Whereas this one spends so much time just being like, where did the Major come from? Who is she? Like, blah, 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 that they never get around to any of the rest of that. And it's a shame because, you know, those are interesting ideas to play with, and they just don't. So it ends up just being kind of a... And then, you know, and then the fact is, like, you could do some interesting action stuff with the Major as a very strong, like, physically imposing kind of android character. But because so many of the action scenes lean on iconic scenes from that I've already seen, I already know how they're going to turn out. So then that gets deflated a little bit as well. So I just didn't really like. There wasn't a lot in it for me. Like, if you're not a fan or you've never seen it before, it might be interesting. But I would almost recommend, like, Hulu's got both versions of the movie on it. Just go watch it. Like,
it's actually the crap version of the second movie, because there's actually like two versions of the second movie.
Well, they have the first movie.
Oh, no, two versions of the first movie.
Two versions of the first movie.
Yeah, there's two versions, and like one, like the director's cut I didn't really like, or
they changed like the color grading on it and some of the stuff. I think just go back and watch the original is fine, and that's actually one of those movies where it really totally holds up in as a dub. Right, they did a really good job with the dub and all the different characters, and so yeah, I don't know. It as expected, it just really wasn't all that worth your time. Like, it's just kind of a mediocre sci-fi movie that's relies a little bit too heavily on green screen and effects, and it doesn't really do a whole hell of a lot. Like, you know, there's that scene like in the anime when they encounter the guy, the garbage truck scene, right?
Yeah.
Where they encounter the guy that's shooting with them that has like the high velocity ammo in his gun, and there's a part where he like puts in a new clip and like really sets himself, and then like shoots this gun that's literally like pushing him backwards and just blows these fucking holes aplenty in like Bateau and the Major's car. And it's really impressive. And in here, they don't have as many of those kind of like punchy scenes as they have in the anime. So I don't know. All right, let's get some questions. Mail at ragefight.com is the email address, and our first question this week comes in from one of our favorites, Detective FDR. What
up, yo?
Matey. He says, "Hey guys, I just finished watching Castlevania on Netflix, and I loved it. However, I've never played any of the games and had no prior knowledge about it before watching. So here's my question. Is there any franchise you enjoy only from an extended branch that's not the original thing that started it? For me, it's loving this show, but I don't plan on ever playing the games. Keep it classy. Keep the awesome work. Your fan, Detective FDR. So things that you like more as an extended thing than the base thing."
That's a good question.
It's a very good question. I realize now that I didn't actually think of an answer before I decided to ask this question.
And you're springing this on me so quickly that I'm just like, well,
it's interesting. I'm trying to think if there's okay, I'll tell you, this is weird, but I really enjoy the game theorist talking about Five Nights at Freddy's, and I really have no interest in ever playing the Five Nights at Freddy's games. But I'm
on the same page there.
Watching breakdowns and analyses of those games and kind of a recap of the story. even though I really don't have any interest in playing the games.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, but I'm just trying to think of, like, what other things would I be a fan of that...
I got another one. I have watched the video for Wrestling Isn't Wrestling roughly 1 billion times.
Yeah.
I will probably never really... I'm not really interested in watching wrestling every week, but I enjoy listening to Max Landis talk about wrestling. Like, I enjoy listening to you talk about wrestling, but I don't want to actually watch wrestling.
I understand that. I understand. And I agree with you on like, you know, I love that little short. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, like, what do I love in other medium?
It's a tough question.
It's a tough question.
There's some answers out there, but it's the problem with doing a podcast like this is that it's an all on the spot. You're just like racking your brain trying to think of. I know there's something out there.
There's a weird part of me that loves that. Like, it's weird because I like Double Dragon, for example.
Yeah.
I don't love the games. I don't hate the games either, though. I don't love them, except for Double Dragon Neon, which I fucking love Double Dragon Neon because it's fucking crazy. But I really like the cartoon and the movie for Double Dragon. I know the movie's terrible, so I'm not gonna argue with anyone who's like, "Dear God, John, the movie's fucking terrible." But there's a part of me that loves that movie. I don't know why, but I just fucking love the stupidity of that movie.
Sure,
like just the fucking how terrible it is why it's great.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I've loved any of the games as much. Like, I think I love Double Dragon Neon for that same reason. The stupidity and ridiculousness of it is why I love it.
Okay.
I think I love that movie more than I do the
I've got an answer for you.
Okay.
That you've told me before is that you seem to really enjoy a kind of like my thing about Five Nights at Freddy's is that you seem to enjoy parts of the Soulsborne series, but you don't really seem to enjoy playing the games all that much.
No, true. Like if they released like a Bloodborne animated movie that just like retold the story of the game in movie form, I'd totally watch the shit out of that.
Sure.
Like, no questions asked. Like, you wouldn't even have to say, you wouldn't have to twist my arm. It's like, hey, they turned the story of Bloodborne into an anime. I'm there. Where? Where can I watch it? I need it now.
Man, Bloodborne would make a great anime. Get the Helsing guy to do the like storyboards for it, make it all like super bloody and violent.
But yeah. I'm just trying to think. Like, I can't think of anything other. I feel like there is. Like, I actually feel like there is actual, like, things that, like, I have no intentions of ever going back to the source material for, or even attempting to look for the source material, but I fucking love the whatever's been adapted from it.
Yeah.
Like 10 times more. I feel like there's actually, like, tons of things. And I'm just, like, trying to rack my head, because I'm not just doing video games in my head. I'm, like, looking at, like, books and comics and... stuff that is a movie that got turned into a game, maybe, or got turned into a comic book that I just love more. And it's like, I know that there's stuff there, but I can't, for the life of me, think of what it is.
I could say, you know what? I can say this maybe it falls a little bit into that same category of, like, I enjoy the superhero genre of Netflix series and movie and superhero movies and like. I think I might go back and try because Justice League Unlimited is going off of Netflix at the end of the month, and I've been thinking about going back and watching all that. But you know what? It's been years since I've laid fingers on a comic book. Like, I don't actually go to the well. Like, I like Superman, but it's not like I go to the comic book store and then pick up Superman and then read it every month. It's like I'm mostly interested in like comics as a medium are a little unwieldy and expensive for me, and I already have one really expensive habit. I don't need a second one. I don't make enough money to have a comic book habit as well as a video game habit. So.
Actually, I do have a couple of answers.
Okay,
and what's funny is they're not recent things though. They're actually kind of old. The Spawn animated series.
Okay.
I really like that animated series. Couldn't give two shits about Spawn.
Yeah.
Like, I have no desire to ever go back and read those comics. I have no desire to read the comics of Spawn that are currently coming out.
Still making Spawn? Of
Yeah.
course they're still making Spawn.
He's also trying to get a movie made, and he's not able to get it made because he demands like full 100% complete creative control, and just wants he wants complete 100% creative control. Like wants to direct it, wants to write the script, just like is shopping around and asking studios just to give him money, and they're like, "Well, we want some say in what goes." Like, no, it's either I have complete 100% control or I don't want your money, and they're like, "We're not going to give you our money then. Right. Have a nice day,
bye."
Yeah, like he's kind of burning. Apparently, he's like burning bridges in Hollywood because of it, because of how like it's like hard. Like I either have 100% creative control or nothing, kind of thing. But the Spawn animated series I really liked.
Okay.
Another and this a lot of this is animated series is Savage Dragon, also an animated series that was on USA Network. I really liked that cartoon. Couldn't give two shits about the comic.
Read a lot of Savage Dragon, the comic.
I read some of Savage Dragon back in the day, but Eric Larson's political views and shit that he then later put in his books just made me just kind of go, well, no, I'm done. Yeah. I don't need this. Wing Commander, same way. I like the Wing Commander cartoon, Wing Commander Academy cartoon. Couldn't care about the games.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that I have anything else.
Yeah, like I'm sitting there just trying to think if there's anything else that I can just think of off the top of my head that
I've never read the Tick comic, but I really like the Tick animated series.
See, I like everything the Tick.
Did you see the new trailer?
Yeah. I love the Tick comics. I love the Tick animated series. I have the DVDs for the Tick animated series that they've released. They haven't released the whole thing. They just only released I think the first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And then I've got the live action Tick with Patrick Warburton.
So good.
And then I'm gonna end up getting Amazon Prime next month so I can watch.
Do we know whether
so I can watch the new Tick show?
Do we know in the new Tick show whether it's Der Fledermaus or Batman Well? Because when Batman Well first came,
I don't think they've showed up.
Okay, because when they first brought Batman Well on, I was like, how dare you remove Der Fledermaus from the Tick? And then I was like, oh fuck, Batman Well's the shit. I love Batman Well.
Yeah.
Also,
yeah.
Batman Well is one of the greatest names I've ever heard for a superhero.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, so I'm totally on board for the new series. So I have avoided Amazon Prime because I don't buy a whole shit ton of stuff from Amazon.
Yep.
And it's but we've made the decision that we're finally, when we move, we're cutting cable.
Yeah.
Like the cable TV. Like we're going to just get whatever the highest cable internet we can get and just do that. And I'm like, well, guess it's time to get Amazon Prime. And then I was like, yeah, but I don't need it right away. And they're like, also, the Tick comes out in August. Fuck, I need to get Amazon Prime in August.
All right. Well, our next question comes in from Jay, and Jay says, "Dear Jeff and John, long-time listeners from the listener from the day of the bar, first time emailing in. Have I just made a huge mistake? I have been a gamer for most of my life. I love big games such as Mass Effect," and then he says, fuck Andromeda, "GTA, and The Witcher. However, I found it harder and harder to find time to play games I love. I've just gotten engaged to the love of my life. Congratulations. I'm also a full stepdad to her 5-year-old, who I call my own. This, along with my job, leaves me very little time to play games. To this end, I just sold my PS4 and bought a Switch. Have I made a mistake? My thinking was that I could introduce my fiance and daughter to gaming. Games such as Mario Kart seem perfect for that. The Switch seems to be the most child-friendly system. However, I'm very worried about the lack of third-party support for the Switch. Advice and comments, please, beautiful Rage staff. Thanks, and keep up the great work, Jay." Jay, it's really going to depend on Jay, your life is going to have to change a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that if you're dealing with a 5-year-old and you like games like your examples were Mass Effect, GTA, and The Witcher, Mass Effect, no. You know what? I think I could pretty much say that all 3 of those are not appropriate for a 5-year-old. Maybe GTA, but then you get into the 5-year-olds shooting hookers in the face and type of thing. But The Witcher and Mass Effect both have full-on sex in them and themes that are probably a little bit more for mature. As far as the Switch being a viable system outside of third-party support, okay, well, first off, let's take that particular claim. I think that what you mean, Jay, is that the Switch is not going to be getting the AAA games, that the next Call of Duty is not going to come out on the Switch, or the next Red Dead 2 is not going to come out on the Switch. Like that, you're not going to see these big budget AAA games be released on the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah,
because there's actually, I mean, like I kind of keep up with it from time to time. They keep putting stuff out every week on the Switch. Sometimes it's just SNK classics, but like, you know, they keep putting games out on the Switch.
Yeah.
Which is good. I think, though, that what you're probably going to have to come to terms with, and I'm sorry, I'll let you talk a second, is that you're moving from playing games just for yourself to playing games that are appropriate for a child. That's probably going to be your major shift at this point, because unless you want to, it sounds like you have very little free time, so if you can incorporate spending time with your new family with video games, that's going to be a better use. That's going to be a better use of your time than like, all right, sweetie, darling, I'm going to go play fucking Ultraviolence the game for a little while. See ya. Is that you're moving into just a different area of video games. But I do think that there's a fair amount of third-party support for the Switch. It's just that you have to remember that the Switch is kind of like it's better if you think about it as a big 3DS and not as a Xbox One, PS4, PC, Nintendo Switch. I think of it more of PS Vita, 3DS, cell phone, Nintendo Switch. Like it's a more advanced portable device than it is a beefy home console. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I mean, you're not like you said. You're probably not going to get like Red Dead, the new Red Dead, or things like that. I mean, I think you'll see some titles, but they're going to be very few and far between. Like I don't think you're going to get a Mass Effect, on the console ever. I don't think you'll ever get GTA on the console ever.
I mean, you get Skyrim. That's coming.
Yeah, you get Skyrim. But on the plus side, you also have, there are good games going to be coming out for the console directly from Nintendo. I mean, the new Legend of Zelda, that's going to probably scratch some itch.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Mario Kart, you've got there was a game, you were looking at a page and it scrolled. I mean, the new Battle Chasers game is coming out on it.
Yeah.
There's
Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yeah, Mario Odyssey's probably going to be fucking awesome.
Payday.
If you're a wrestling game person, WWE 2K18 is going to come out on it. They've already announced. Whether that game's good or not is here or there. But
let's see. I'm just trying to figure out what came out.
And apparently, there's a lot of indie games coming out for it as well. Like there's a lot of indie developers have actually said that Nintendo has been like very open.
Yeah, I mean
to them with the Switch.
The advantage is that Nintendo is putting out more. It's not all kid friendly, right? Like even on the Wii U, I think that people forget like Bayonetta 2, the Fatal Frame 5, or whatever that was. Like there were, it's not just like for babies all the time. Like there was a trailer that I even skipped in the news section that was the new game. It's called like Taking Hawaii or something. It's from the what was that little GTA game where it was like you played as a tiny retro game, Rampage?
Okay, yeah.
It's from those same guys, and it's like a very kind of 16-bit GTA style, tongue-in-cheek, like making like a lot of jokes, but then also like running over people in your car and like blasting a bunch of people. So I feel like
there's also like they also just released like a solitaire style game that's like with sheep, and like when you actually like look at what the story is, it's actually like really that one.
Sheppy?
Yeah. Where basically it's like there's a storyline to it where you're sheep and you find out like the devil is trying to convince the farmer to kill the sheep, and like you're the sheep discovering that the farmer is going to kill you and harvest your skin.
Okay.
And like trying to stop it's fucking weird.
Okay.
All right? It's just a fucking weird thing that's, when you actually think about it in the context that they put it in, it's fucking creepy.
Maybe
it's solitaire.
Maybe the best way to describe it is like this. you're probably not going to have the same gaming experience that you had on the PS4 or Xbox One.
Yeah.
Or PC for that matter. But you're still going to be able to have a satisfying gaming experience. Even if you were just playing just the Nintendo first-party stuff. Here's the thing. Nintendo doesn't really make shit games. Like, I was really surprised at how good ARMS was. Mario Kart 8 on the fucking Switch is just a really masterful version of Mario Kart. Zelda is a wonderful open-world adventure game. Like, Super Mario Odyssey looks like it's going to be great. Splatoon 2 is coming out towards the end of the month. And I think that if you are able to... You're probably going to have to just shift what you expect out of video games, but if you can get over the hump of the fact that these games are going to be bright and colorful and probably appropriate for all ages, Nintendo still makes fun games. Like, that's the reason I can never totally count them out, is because they still fucking make fun games. And so, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think you'll be okay.
I think it'll be okay too.
Also, you could always buy another PlayStation 4 if you really need to, or maybe a PC and then play some games on the PC. But I think that that's a perfect thing for you to. I think the Nintendo Switch will work out very well as a console that can be for both children and adults, and etc. So. All right, this next one comes in from Gormdragon, who says, "Dear Jeff and John, I recently received a tax return, and this is also about Nintendo Switch. I recently received a tax return that I could potentially spend on Sony VR or a Nintendo Switch. How does the Sony VR work for non-VR games such as Bloodborne, Dark Souls, Doom, etc.? Would it serve as an enlarged TV? Also, do I need more than one Move controller? As someone who has been hearing great things from you guys regarding VR, which have you seen so far as a better investment and or most utilized, a Sony VR or Nintendo Switch? Your low patron, Gormdragon." So,
I think the first thing we say as far as VR, yes, you do need two, but like most of them come with two controllers.
The pack comes with two Move controllers.
Yeah.
I think that Gormdragon might be in the same position that I was, where if you have one Move controller and you're trying to think about whether you should buy like the camera and a second controller, they only sell Move controllers in packs of two now. Yeah. I would recommend just buying the pack that has the whole shabazz.
Yeah,
right?
If you're going to do that.
Yeah.
And then also as far as like how games that are not VR supported work, it works like it's a larger TV.
Yeah, big virtual screen that projects in front of your face that you can play games on. I actually tried playing Doom or Dark Souls on it, and I actually had to reduce the size of the screen because I was missing information because the screen was so goddamn big in my VR headset that I was missing the cues of enemies starting to come to attack me. So, but yeah, you can totally play non-VR games, and it's just a big. I really do wish though that Sony would give me the option to put. I get real. Okay, Hulu has have you used the Hulu VR app?
I've watched. So
Hulu has a virtual living room.
Well,
with a giant TV.
You can either set it up, and it's not just a virtual. You can either set it up as a giant virtual living room. You can set it up as a movie theater, or you can even set it up to be at the beach.
Oh, okay.
Which is really weird because it also has different options for weather at the beach, like sunny, nighttime, and stormy.
All right, yeah.
And it's why the fuck would I want to watch with cloud, be at the beach and because they actually have stuff going on at the beach on the side. I'm like, why the fuck would I want to be at the beach with shit distracting me from the thing I'm watching on my giant TV screen?
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I like it better when they have an environment because Little Star is an app that you can use to watch movies. And then the PS just straight
I think Netflix also has I
haven't tried that yet.
I don't know if it has an environment, but I know it has a VR.
A VR mode. Well, I know they had one of those on the Gear VR, but I really wish that Sony had an option for me to just do that same thing, and instead of just having the screen floating in blackness, to have an environment, because it really does make you feel a little bit more secure if you see a virtual couch around you and a giant ass TV as opposed to just floating in black darkness with nothing else.
Yeah, I actually kind of like the Hulu. I have mine set to the movie theater, so I'm just you're halfway up a movie theater.
Yeah.
And it's directly in the middle, and you have your giant screen in front of you, and it's watching movie to movie. They even have a virtual bag of popcorn and a virtual cup of soda that you can throw.
I also really wish that Sony, in addition to that, would do. There's a lot of games that use the light on the DualShock 4 to put the DualShock 4 in your field of vision, and it just kind of cuts down on your feeling of disembodiment because you've got a thing that you can look at that's responding to your physical movement in the game world. Anyway, okay, so you want to start first? I got a whole breakdown that I was thinking about on VR versus Switch.
I don't know because I don't have a Switch, but I want a Switch.
Okay.
I kind of had, mind you, I made the decision to buy a PSVR before the Switch came out. And I had to make that decision of, do I buy a PSVR? Do I save the money and buy a Switch? And, you know, I had the money burning a hole in my pocket from my tax return, like, really early because I do my taxes, like, as soon as I can do them.
January.
Like, it's like as soon as they let me do it, they're filed and I have that money in February.
Yeah.
So I opted to get the VR because the Switch wasn't out yet. But
okay, well, let me Gorm Dragon, I think I can tell you how I think this will inform your decision. Okay, it depends on what your focus is. The Nintendo Switch is going to give you I think the Switch is a great little piece of technology. You can take it around with you. Like, you can play 2-player. You can sit on the couch. You can play it. I wish it had apps. I'm still waiting for them to put some apps on there so I can, like, watch Netflix on it as a tablet, right? But it totally does what it says in the box. Like, TV to the thing. And the Switch is actually a really interesting vector because it's got games that you can't get anywhere else. Like, you know, the best version of Breath of the Wild, ARMS, Splatoon, like, you know, the different things that we've been talking about are really only available on that platform. It's not like you could just get it on the PC or the PS4. So you're getting access to a set of games that you're not getting. You're getting that Nintendo quality that we were harping on about in the last segment, and you're getting a fully featured little tablet that's also a gaming thing. And I really like it. I really enjoyed the Switch. Like, there was a time where I was just playing Mario Kart like fucking crazy on that thing. VR, on the other hand, you're going to have to put up with a bunch of wackadoo weird experiences because they're still figuring out VR.
Yeah.
So, like, if you buy a VR headset, know for a fact that by the end of this year, we will probably have 2 what you would consider AAA games on the PSVR, and that's Resident Evil 7 and Skyrim. Maybe Doom VFR as well, but that seems like more of an experience thing. Like, Arizona Sunshine is a game, and it's 8 to 10 hours long, and it's fine, but, like, I don't know. A lot of what comes through the PlayStation VR store are different, like, experiences and, like, weird things or, like, little games that you may not want to play for an extended period of time. So I feel like you're going to have to, like, I just want to save you from being disappointed if you think I'm going to buy the PSVR and then I'm going to play a shitload of games on it, because I've only found like 3 or 4 games that I really want to spend extended period of time with. Some are really interesting experiences. Like, I love the Battlefront X-Wing experience. But like Ancient Emulator that came out last week is an interesting game, or Rush of Blood is an interesting game, but I don't know that I want to play it over and over again on multiple difficulty levels, or, you know, try to find all the secrets.
Yeah, and there's a lot of games that are kind of like that. I mean, there's going to be a lot of games that there's a lot of gameplay in them, and they're fun for when you first play them out, or even if you're like, hey, you want to try out my PSVR? Here's a game you should play.
Right.
You know, like, I actually think the game Headmaster is really, really one that is, it fits that category of, oh, hey, I have a friend over. I'm going to have him play this game that doesn't require any controllers other than just moving your head.
Yeah, and
you totally get it. It's a little, it's fun. It's funny. But you know, like you said, there's not a whole lot of like AAA titles. Like, a lot of the Batman Arkham VR is great. It's just short.
It's about 30 minutes,
45
30 to 45, depending on how much you do.
Yeah. And then, you know, and then, like, there's other games, like, if you also want to put the money down to get an aim controller, there's, like, the game Farpoint that people have been saying is really good. And then, you know, if you're a huge Trek fan and you have other friends that have PSVR and are Star Trek fans, you know, Star Trek Bridge Crew is pretty good. You know, but...
Yeah, it's really, I mean, like, I would say to you, what it really comes down to is the level of polish that you're looking for. Like, VR is still new and kind of crazy. I mean, like we're seeing stuff. Like last week, there was a trailer for they're putting out Castle Storm in VR. You remember Castle Storm was like the second game we ever played on Rage Select, where it's like build a castle and then you got little creeps going back and forth.
Yeah,
but you look at it and it's just Castle Storm. It's just playing Castle Storm, but with the VR headset on, and so it's one of those like maybe I don't know. So the thing that I would say that really makes your decision is that with Nintendo, you're going to be getting very well put together, very full featured things that you can take with you on the go, et cetera, et cetera. With VR, you're going to be getting a lot of kind of experimental wonkiness that may or may not be any good. And I wouldn't expect a gigantic library of stuff. Like Superhot's coming out next week in VR, but I was actually reading the Steam reviews for Superhot VR. Apparently the game is like an hour and 20 minutes long total.
Superhot itself is not very long.
That's true, but Superhot at least is like in the 4-hour range, whereas
I thought it was like 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Oh, maybe it's a little bit less. I don't know. Anyway, it's shorter, so, whatnot. So, I don't know. Hope that answered your question. Let's move on to Julio, who writes in and says, "Hey, Jeff and John, I recently finished playing Final Fantasy 15. I didn't like it. While I had many small issues with the game as a whole, the largest reason why I didn't like it was how the story was structured. While the story as a whole isn't that complicated, a prince and his bros get fucked up, need to collect the 13 weapons to save the princess and stop the bad guys. The way how the scenes flow chapter by chapter felt like it was written for a more linear game such as Final Fantasy 7, 10, or even 13. And the open world structure that 15 have been making a big deal about seems to hurt its pacing greatly in the long run. I also ran into this problem more with the Japanese games rather than Western games such as Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade X, and to some extent Metal Gear Solid 5. So, Jeff and John, do you think that the open world structure of video games hurt the storytelling in these games, especially Japanese ones? Also, Jeff, what did you think of Final Fantasy 15? Thanks, Julio.
I think you already answered a long time ago what you thought of 15.
It's possible Julio doesn't listen to every single podcast that comes out because it's one of my favorite things to batter on. I did not like 15. I think it's the weakest Final Fantasy game I've ever seen. I think that the combat system is dumbed down and lacks... we just got done playing 12, right? The Zodiac Age.
Yeah, you guys did. I didn't.
Yeah. The Zodiac Age, you've got 6 characters. You've got something like 12 to 18 jobs, and you can every character in the game can have 2 different jobs, changing the way that the party lineup is, changing the way that they interact with the game world. You've got the whole gambit system to set up like a whole programming language of how characters act when they're automated and what they do. All this adds up to a very deep system. Final Fantasy 15, you get control kind of one guy, and that's pretty much it. Like you get control of Noctis and you can customize everybody else, but it's just a real... I don't know. I got so many problems with Final Fantasy 15 that I'll run them down real quick. The story is fucked up. It's a fucked up way of telling a story. It doesn't give you enough information to actually get any kind of to have any real stakes. The combat system I feel like is terrible. This isn't something I usually would complain about, but most Final Fantasy games are pretty diverse in having different people and monsters, or just there's a kid and there's a lady and there's a guy and there's a strong guy and there's a nerdy guy. This was just 4 guys, and I don't know, it just really kind of made it feel flatter than a lot of the other games. I don't know, I just got bored halfway through it. I love Persona 5. I got back into playing Persona 5, and I love all the different characters in Persona 5, and they all have kind of their different things that they're doing. And it's fun, but anyway. So the question here is, do you think the open world structure of video games hurts the storytelling of a traditional Japanese role-playing game?
I don't know.
I think it depends on how open we're talking, because a lot of you could go back and consider JRPGs the way of Final Fantasy 1, right?
Yeah.
Have always been open world.
Yeah.
Because you can walk between different towns and...
I think the biggest problem is that most JRPG open worlds, some of the ones he mentioned, Xenoblade Chronicles, Xenoblade X, and things like that, their open world games are not open world in the way that GTA 5 it's open world.
Yeah.
They're open world in the same way that an MMORPG is open world.
Okay.
And they structure themselves like an MMO, but single player.
Mm.
And I think that hurts it. I think that I actually hate single player games that structure themselves like an online MMO. I feel like I'm playing like World of Warcraft or something.
Yeah,
and I don't like that.
Is that the combat structure or like the fetch quests or that kind of thing?
It's exactly. I mean, that's all that.
Okay.
But it's just, I don't know. Like I said, I mean, maybe that's just me.
I don't know. I guess like I'm trying to compare it in my head to something like Persona 5, where Persona 5, there's like a bunch of different places that you can go. There's a bunch of different dungeons, but I guess they're all crafted. To me, I'll tell you what I just don't like about open worlds in general is you got to be really careful. We had a question last week where somebody was talking about how his roommate hates the fact that in Skyrim everything is too close, that it breaks the immersion for him because like you can walk from River Run to Whitehold or whatever in like 10 minutes instead of like it being because in the real world it would take 4 days of walking, right, to get from a town to a castle.
Yeah.
And that he hates how close up everything is in the game and wanted everything to be spaced out more. I personally think that dead time that you spend walking around in a world, like the best way to maybe talk about it in RPG terms is like in the old days when you were walking in a Final Fantasy game, like from this town to this other town, and in between there were just a bunch of random encounters and there wasn't really very much else, that to me is boring. Like that time spent in an empty world is boring. So I just want my world to be
interesting.
Yeah, full of interesting stuff. Whether it's open or closed, whether it's linear or not, I want my world to feel full and I want it to feel engaging, and that's probably why I didn't like Final Fantasy 15 is because there was a lot of dead space between areas.
Yeah,
so,
I get that.
Yeah. All right, this next one comes in from Daniel, who says, "Hello, Jeff and John. Recently, I've been getting into mods for a few games, and there have been a few that are so massive and enjoyable, I thought they would make great games on their own. I was curious if you ever saw a mod, DLC, or any mini game that you thought would work as a separate game. Thanks, from Daniel." I think that Counter-Strike, that's a Half-Life mod. That might work as its own game. You might put that out all by itself, maybe?
Yeah. That was an old, an old Quake mod that was, it was an X-Men game, like Mutant something or other.
Uh-huh.
Actually was released as a single player, like a single game by itself, and it was totally just a mod.
Yeah.
And you could play as X-Men, you were fighting clones of the X-Men.
I'm trying to think of mini games.
Mods and mini games that would work as their own games.
You know what? We were talking about Grand Theft Auto. I really wish that they had put together a system to let you do non-story heists, because I loved the heists in GTA 5.
Yeah.
But they happen. There's like 4 of them total, I think, in the game where they have to be set up and blah 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 blah. And I kind of wish that you could just like make a heist happen at any time that you wanted to. That you could just be like,
I mean, you can do heists in online mode now, right?
Yeah, but those are still directed. I kind of wish that they had made a system where it's like you can set up, we're going to go rob a convenience store, and like set the game to the point where you and 3 other guys bust into a convenience store and one person covers the cashier, and then like you have to go open the safe, because those parts of GTA 5 were really amazing, and I kind of wish that they had their own type of thing. Some people out there might say Payday, but I don't like Payday very much. It's just a lot of you just shooting endless cops in Payday. But I'm trying to think of any other mods. I think that Macho Man Randy Savage Dragons in Skyrim.
They put, like, people with mods, they put Macho Man Randy Savage in everything.
Yeah.
Like, there's the Savage Razor Claws or whatever.
Death Claws, yep.
And turn the Savage Death Claws into Macho Man Randy Savage Death Claws.
Yep.
But those are all great.
So what I'm saying is that I could deal with a whole game that was nothing but dragons that were wrestlers flying around and doing stuff. All right, one final question, and this one, I'm sorry, John, is probably not going to apply to you all that much. Comes in from Tom, and Tom says, "Good day to you, Ragecasters. My question for you this week is, if you were to discover a brand new concoction of alcohol in a freakish Frankenstein-like incident, what would your personality be aiming to create? beer, whiskey, beer, cocktail, etc. And what would you name your creation? However, there is one rule. The theme is video game related. What say you, your friend from across the pond, Tom? You can do it. You can do non-alcoholic beverage. You can create a tasty treat with some base.
I mean, if it's we're sticking with alcoholic, I mean, I probably wouldn't be, I'd probably do something akin to a flaming Dr. Pepper or something like that. But I don't know how I'd change it up or whatever. But that would be to emulate that kind of taste, but
it's got to be video game related.
Yeah, but it's got to be video game related, and how it would be
flaming Nuka-Cola.
yeah, flaming Nuka-Cola, sure.
Yeah.
Or radioactive Nuka-Cola.
There you go. Yeah. Make it green, right? Yeah. Make it glowing and green.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you'd put in it, but
I want to make a drink that's the Estus, and I know that a lot of people already have made the Estus, but a glowing orange cocktail that you can fucking praise the sun with. That's probably it's got to have like a Four Loko. It's going to have an energy drink component to it because you're supposed to be revitalized when you drink it, right? So maybe it's what you drink at the end of the night after you've it's your final cap to the night, right? Is then you drink the Estus and then you go to sleep and you wake up, you don't have a hangover. Or also a Bloodborne Mary, maybe like tomato juice and knowledge of great ancient ones to drive you mad, and also a piece of celery. And when you drink it, you are able to see beyond the pale of reality and strip away all the scales fall from your eyes, and you're able to see the secret way in which the world is ruled by ancient aliens from beyond the stars. Also, it'll get you fucked up, bro.
You'll think you're an octopus.
That's right.
So fucked up, you think you've turned into this little squid.
I'm a tiny squid. Jeff, you're not a tiny squid. You just drank too many Bloodborne Marys.
Well,
man.
then why don't I have legs? Why am I just lying here? Somebody pick me up.
You have legs. Also, when you order man, I need to come up with a good name for the Estus cocktail. You have to praise the sun whenever you're going to order it. You have to. You know what? It's shit. I'm so close. Fuck. The name is. Nope. I'll work on it. I'll come back to you and find it. I'm so close. It's got to be something about grossly incandescent, but then they have to add a liquor term into, or a liquor or beer term into part of that thing. And then you got to praise the sun, and then you don't even drink it. You just pour it on top of your head,
it's absorbed through the skin.
You've seen those pictures online, right? Of just Solaire fucking dumping Estus on his head. So that's it. Sorry to revert to Bloodborne, everybody, Dark Souls, but I mean, come on. What did you expect when you asked that question, Tom? And with that, we're going to wrap it up. It's another podcast done, and mail at rageselect.com is the email address. If you want to email us your own question, we will read it. Also, I've been talking about this on Doom. If I've been listening to a podcast that does a Q&A thing, but they also let people write in with funny stories. So if you got a funny story to tell that maybe leads into a question, feel free. Just try to keep it under 1 million paragraphs, because we just
no novels.
Don't have time for 1 million paragraphs. So with that, I think I gotta get a Bloody Mary. I gotta get a Bloody Mary in me now, John. Let's go.